Award-winning author Laurel Bill offers fun-filled workshops for both new and published authors. The following segments are excerpts from a workshop presented at the Valley Byliners Writers Workshop on February 11th, 2012.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions for you. By a show of hands, how many of you are already published authors? Woo! Great! Well, then I'm just going to kind of breeze over the very beginning of this because I was going to open with stories. How do you get your stories? And since you're all published, you probably have an idea, but I'm just going to kind of touch on some avenues if you get writer's block, what you can do. Stories are all around us, aren't they? They're everywhere. You never know where your next story idea is going to come from. One thing you want to remember is people are always looking for reliable information, and that is never going to change. It's always like a barber and a hairdresser are always going to have a job because your hair still always grows. Same thing, people are going to want to read. They might start reading in a different format, like ebooks, but they want to read, and it's your job to create the content for them to read. Ideas. They could, like I said, come from anywhere. Have you ever had a long-term relationship that ended badly but you survived? Maybe you just recently learned that your best friend's a closet Democrat and you didn't know. If you think your life is boring, then look at lives around you. If you see someone who's doing exciting things, learn more about it. So, all these biologists were out doing all their surveys. They would come back, they would drop their notes on my desk, and it was up to me to put them into order, type them all out, and get them ready for this massive book we put together. Two instances in particular, as I said, have never left me. One of them was a wolf biologist who was out surveying some area of Alaska, and he comes back, and I've got my earphones on. At that time, he had dictaphone, and I'm going along, and he said, "One thing I learned on this trip is to never sneak up on a lynx wearing a hat and sunglasses." I could see that old lynx laid back against the tree with his brim down and shades looking at him, right? You can see how where you place your words matter. I'm sure you all have used or heard or read cliches. I have a website for you. This is very exciting, and I want you to write it down. It's called Cliche, C-L-I-C-H-E, dot, the, info, dot, org. Cliche.theinfo.org. What does this little site do? It's very exciting. You can cut and paste your document into a window at this site for free. Hit the submit button and it will highlight every cliche in your writing. And then it's up to you to rewrite it so it's fresh and original. Book editing can be a grueling process, and especially if you're not used to critiquing your own work. You might pass over errors without seeing it. Editing is important to produce quality work. So learning the basic principles of how to organize and condense your manuscripts can save your book's reputation.
Can we back up to describe setting?
Yes.
How much detail are we talking about here? If you're talking about the entire state of Alaska, you could go on and on. About Harlingen, Texas, it's a much narrower scope. So
Where is your story taking place is what I'm talking about. Is it taking place in Harlingen, Texas? Texas itself is too broad for you. If your story's happening in Harlingen, then you want to talk about Harlingen and the 4th Street Antiques. Which, by the way, I forgot to share with you. The Byliners set up a book signing for me at Jackson Street Antiques. And I was talking with Leo, the owner. He's very interested in history. And I said, well, I was showing him my first book and said, this is about the indigenous people of Alaska, how they crossed the Bering Sea land bridge thousands of years parts of Alaska, and recently now they've tied DNA evidence, has tied our Alaska Native people to, I believe, the Navajo, which means some of the people continued on down. And Leo said, well, that is really interesting, because we've also tied with affirmative proof that the Mexican people must have crossed your Bering Sea land bridge too. He said, in fact, there's proof today. You walk across the border, go into any little Mexican town, pick up a piece of pottery, turn it over, and it says made in China. He had me like this. Alrighty. Are we having fun yet? Well, thank you. That wasn't necessary. Now we're going to touch upon publishing. I have some experience to share with you. We've talked about the hot topics that sell, sprucing up your prose, the importance of good editing, and putting it all together in a book form. Now let's turn our attention to what comes next. You have spent countless hours making your manuscript the best it can be, and you want it now in the published form and into the hands of thousands of readers. Traditional. Oh, I forgot the T. Huh. Oh, you know what I mean. A traditional publishing house. How about a subsidy printer? On-demand printer. Do you want to become a self-publisher? Which also ebooks and audiobooks. To coin an old phrase, the world is your oyster now. The advent of the internet has opened up a global marketplace. And the last question, are you willing to learn about the business of publishing? Do we have any yeses on our pages? Do we have more yeses than nos? If you have more yeses than nos, self-publishing may be the best venue for you to travel. If you are going to self-publish, that means you must market. And I think the next sentence I'm going to tell you, what I'm going to say, is going to absolutely shock you, but trust me, it's the truth. Writing your book is 5% of the work. Marketing and getting your book into the hands of the public is the other 95%. And I cannot tell you how many authors I've come across in my short yet lucrative career in the book author business who have said, I'm the author. You know, I don't go out there and sell my book. Well, you're not going to get it into too many people's hands if you don't. How many times have you gone to maybe a flea market or a book signing, and this is what you see? Here's the author or the person at the table.
Yeah.
If you don't care about your book, why should the audience care about it? You're not going to
smart thing to do. Contrary to popular belief, everyone is not going to want to read your book. So target those you think you'll have the best chance convincing. And if they slow down as they pass by, you say, have you heard about my series? Have you heard about my book? With a big smile and enthusiasm. And they got to stop. They can't be rude. Their mother taught them, don't be rude. At least if you give them the opportunity to look at your book, you've given yourself the opportunity to make a sale.
Laurel Bill customizes her writing workshops to meet her clients' needs. From points on prose to different publishing venues to getting books marketed. She offers dozens of free resources with each workshop.